There once lived a farmer who had 3 sons. To each he gave sound education, but the last son struggled through it all. He'd worked very hard and was able to gather a little fortune before they were grown. This he hoped would help them pursue life without much struggle like he had. One day, when the eldest son was of age, he approached his father and said, "Father, since I am done with school, I would like to travel abroad in search of work." His father was surprised and wondered why he'd want to go that far. But since he was a man and had his life to build, his father replied, "All right, my son, work on the piggery in the farm today. You will find a chest which you should bring to me." The first son could not understand why his father would send him to the farm instead of talking about his travel abroad. Disappointed, he put on his work clothes, picked up his farm tools and left the house. On his way, he met the daughter of a friend of his father who called to him and said, "We owe your father a great deal of money. But since I've run into you, do give it to him on our behalf." Glad at the sight of such huge amount of money, the eldest son ran all the way home to show his father. "Look, father. Now I can travel abroad. Old Simone has finally paid up all he owed us, and it is a huge amount of money indeed," he announced, showing his father the money. "But I told you to go to the farm," his father argued. "You should have forged on to the task ahead and let him come to me himself. Why were you so easily distracted?" The eldest son continued to argue that he wanted to travel abroad, not work on the farm. Disappointedly, his father gave him all the money, blessed him and bade him farewell. Not long after, the second son, who was also of age, approached his father and said, "Father, since I am done with school, I would like to travel to the city in search of work." Surprised, his father wondered why he also wanted to go far away like his elder brother. But he was a man and had his life to build, so his father instructed him, "All right, my son, work on the piggery in the farm today. You will find a chest which you should bring to me on your return." The second son became angry, saying, "I am talking about work in the city and you are sending me to the farm. How is the farm and the city related? Just go and do as I have instructed." The father said calmly, watching as his son stomped angrily out of his presence. Grumbling all through, the second son changed into work clothes, picked up his tools and stamped out of the house. Halfway to the farm, he met a friend of his father. The man seemed happy and relieved to see him, saying, "Thank God I met you. I owe your father a great deal of money and was on my way to your house to meet him. Now that I've run into you, would you give it to him for me?" Ignoring the man as if he'd never spoken a word, the second son walked past him, sulking as he went. He was almost at the farm when he spotted the largest deer he'd ever seen. Being a better hunter than he was a farmer, with his gun always at the ready whenever he walked through bush paths and farmlands, he smiled for the first time since he'd left home. Cocking his gun, he slinked into the bush after the deer. It was already evening when he returned home, happy and jingling a small bag of coins in his hand. He had caught the deer and taken it to the village market. There, he'd sold it for a price good enough to sponsor him to the city and settle him in. Excitedly, he rushed to his father, holding up the pouch of coins. "Father, now I can travel to the city. See the money I made from the sale of a choice game." "But I told you to go to the farm," his father argued. "You should have forged on to the task ahead and let it pass. Why were you so easily distracted?" The second son continued to argue that he wanted to travel to the city and not work on the farm. Disappointed again, the father blessed him, gave him some more money and bade him farewell. 2 summers after his departure, the youngest son also came to his father, having come of age too. He said, "Father, since I was no good at school, I'd like to have my own farm close to yours, where I can plant crops and rear animals. I plan to work hard and expand it so that our supply can be large enough to reach the cities and abroad." The father was surprised at his son's change in perspective. "You want to farm here in the village? Wouldn't you rather go to the city or abroad where you could get a better job like your brother say?" Shaking his head, the youngest son said, "Jobs are for very learned people, father. I hardly made it through school, and even then, with poor results. Let me focus on agriculture where my strength lies, having learnt a lot from you. The village has plenty of land I will need for this venture." Impressed and happy at the proposed continuous company of his last son, he said, "All right, my son, work on the piggery in the farm today. You will find a chest which you should bring to me on your return." Nodding in understanding, the youngest son went into the house, changed his clothes and picked up his tools. Bidding his father a good day, he made his way to the farm whistling merry tunes all the way. He came across a friend of his father who wanted to pay the money he owed. But he simply greeted and directed him on home while he continued on. He spotted wild games which would fetch him a lot of money, but he ignored them and forged forward. He came upon some of his friends having a picnic on a grassy clearing not far from his father's farm. And although they invited him to join them, he nicely declined and continued till he arrived at his father's farm. After exchanging greetings and pleasantries with his father's farmhands, the youngest son made his way to the piggery where he proceeded to work for the day. He let the pigs out, fed and cleaned the animals, before proceeding to clean out the sty. That was when he came across the chest. It was rusted and soiled from being left for so long, but he cleaned it and set it aside. Then he herded the animals back into the clean sty and called it a day. The farmer was overjoyed to see his last son return with the chest all cleaned up, although old and rusted. He'd feared his son would veer off to other things like his elder brothers and miss the chest. He was therefore relieved when his last son showed up with it. The father gave his son a warm welcome before instructing him to take a bath and hurry down to dinner. When the son was finally bathed and down for dinner, his father placed the chest on the table and opened it, revealing treasures in the form of gold, silver, precious gems and money. "This is the wealth I managed to gather before I met your mother, and after, when you boys were born," he explained to the youngest son, whose eyes popped in amazement at the riches before him. "It is yours now, to do whatsoever you want with business-wise. I had hoped to give it to your elder brothers, but they've been impatient and disobedient, choosing to sell their time and energy to masters for pay and belittling agriculture which I had taught you all since you were little." Grateful, the youngest son hugged his father, thanked him for such generosity and promised to make him proud. With his newfound fortune, he was able to buy more lands as an extension of his father's, hire more workers and establish connection with companies and wholesalers in the cities and abroad for large-scale shipment of crops and animals. He soon became wealthy in a few years' time and tore down their old farmhouse, erecting a bigger house in its place. The youngest son thus made his father proud, where the others had made him sad. The little education he'd acquired, coupled with dedication to the improvement of his farming skills and obedience, had given him the wealth his brothers craved so much, but were too impatient to build.